hand it over to you. We've got 54 participants that are still logged in, even though it's lunchtime. So thank you, delegates, for being online at this time to join Sarah, who's done some incredible things like we've spoken about in the green tech and innovation around sustainable methodologies in the supply chain, and she's also doing some work with solar energy and new energy. So very exciting. But the main premise of the talk is for Sarah to speak to us and to share with you her experience being a BYM delegate and how that catapulted her career and changed her life, which I'm certain it did. And we're happy to have her back 3 years later. So Sarah, over to you, and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Zunaid, for the introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm very happy to see that many people logged in, and honored to share my experience as a delegate. I was really honored to be a delegate back in 2017. That's the year where I was representing Morocco as actually, I think, the first Moroccan to take part in the summit. And 2017 is a very special year for many reasons, because that's the year where Morocco joined the African Union, rejoined because it had been out of the African Union for a couple of years. And the BYM experience was really life-changing for me because it impacted my career choice. At that time, in 2017, I was based in Washington, D.C., working at the World Bank. On the doing business report, so doing policy work on regulations for businesses across the world. And I had the chance to see the opportunity to be a BYM delegate, so I applied. And when I joined during the event, which we had the chance to do in person at the time, I met a really vibrant community of entrepreneurs, of change makers, people involved in policy, people involved in all kinds of impactful projects across the continent. And while I really enjoyed my work at the World Bank at the time and having the impact that I had from the United States, I saw the huge potential that Africa has to offer. But more than anything else, I saw the role that we have to play as the youth. Even if I turned 30 this year, I still consider myself part of the youth. But yeah, when I met all these people, most of them actually were based in the continent. It really made me think, it made me see all the opportunities that we have in Africa, but also all the challenges that we can only overcome if we get involved in the ground as citizens all across Africa. So that year, I actually decided to quit my job at the World Bank, which is also a very rare thing to do. Usually, when you manage to get in, and especially as a young professional, it was great to get this kind of experience. But when I saw the potential and the opportunity thanks to the BYM community, I thought maybe now is the good time to move back to my home country, so Morocco, and get involved. So that was the first impact that the summit had. But then there's also the longer term impact. It's the network, really. And until a couple of weeks ago, I was still connecting, trying to find work opportunities with people that I actually met during the summit. And that's why I really encourage you to do the networking via the chat and all those sessions that you have, because it's held online. But that's really one of the most valuable parts of the experience, is to be able to build a network of active young people across the continent. And I mean, each and every one of them has a very interesting or very committed role in whatever country they're based in. So that was I would say the second way that Brightest Young Minds changed my my life. Really, is a network of professionals, but also a network of friends. Because now I know that if I go to South Africa, or in any other country, or if you come to Morocco, you know, we have friends and connections all across the continent. So going back to the life decision that I made while at the summit, I chose to move back to my home country, and it was definitely a reverse cultural shock experience, as I don't know, some of you may have experienced. But having had that exposure and being able to see those opportunities and being so inspired during the summit, it made me hold on through and power through those phases of getting readapted to my own country, because I knew it was worth it. So eventually I was able to land a job as a managing director of an incubator dedicated to green and social startups based in Casablanca, Morocco. And that was really an experience where I could implement some of the skills and some of the ideas that we had the chance to get exposed to during the summit. So I was able to build a team around me, to improve my leadership skills, to basically become the manager that I am today. So I had the chance for 3 years, so since 2017 to 2020, to do a lot of fundraising for the incubator, to implement programs. When I started, we had let's say 10 startups incubated per year. And when I left at the end of the 3 years, we had 250 startups per year being incubated. So that's like almost 100 times more. And that was a real powerful experience. And I was able to be part of a network of incubators, including one of them that is in South Africa called Oribi. And I could leverage my network over there, thanks to the incubator experience. So after joining the coming back to Morocco, leading the incubator, I thought maybe I want to get involved furthermore in the more of the government aspect of things. So in 2020, I joined the IRESEN, so the Research Institute of Solar Energy and New Energies that I'm working in now, to keep supporting a project, but this time it's more technical projects. So it's clean technologies, green techs basically, whereas the incubator was more social startups, so not very tech heavy. And so I joined as a director of R&D and innovation programs, funding for the funding part. And now again, I'm able to connect, because climate change is a global issue and cannot be solved at the national level. It really needs to be solved by the cooperation of all countries. And when it comes to Africa, we're one of the continents that is mostly impacted by the climate change, but still we don't have the capacity, the R&D and innovation capacity in terms of financing that other countries have. So my role here is to secure funds and to create synergies between African countries to innovate in the field of clean technologies. And I do believe that for the continent as a whole, if we collaborate in creating synergies and creating consortiums, basically, that will research solutions such as solar energy or wind energy or green hydrogen or things like that, we can really position ourselves as a green continent, and also a continent where we innovate in those areas, because we are mostly impacted by these. So going back to this, the main question, because it's really about the impact that the program had. I think when I look at it, even at the longer term, I would say that it gives you it's like stacking your batteries for, I would say, the rest of your careers. I mean, for now it's been working, but every time I get a bit less motivated, or when I get, because Africa is it's a very challenging work environment, especially if you've been exposed to other work environments. So for me, I worked in Australia, in France, in the United States. So moving back to my home country was really a cultural shock, and at a professional level as well. So thinking of what I saw and what I heard and the people I met, and that energy that we had during the summit, it's like my battery, really. I don't know, I can think of another way to say it, but it's really stacking your batteries to really give the best that you can to your meaningful jobs and to your continent. So I see that some people are commenting. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I have an eye on the chat. So I see thank you very much. In fact, making career choices can be very tricky, because especially when we're younger, we tend to think that it's going to really have a long-term impact, and it is true, but each experience is worth living it to its fullest. So there's no way there's no right or wrong decision. There's just really experiencing things to their fullest and really trying to give it your best. So as I like to say, it was a bold move to leave the World Bank, but now looking back on it, I think because I really dedicated myself to my work in the incubator and now in the research institute, I think I actually learned a lot more, and I could actually go back to the World Bank, but having the field experience, and it's really important to be able to know how things work. And we often talk about sustainable development or aid, but I think that as young Africans, we need to really be actors, not just trying to copy those models, but imagine our own models. And the only way to imagine our own models is by discussing and creating communities that are connected at the global level, but that can also act at the local level. How do you cope with being young and being a leader? How do you hype yourself up? How do you deal with those who don't trust your judgment because you're too young? So one thing is, I usually don't say my age, even if you can tell from my face that I'm not that old. When you understand the topic you're working on, when you really master those topics that you're working on. So in my case, it's startups, seed investment, impact financing, and these things. When you talk and you say things that people actually don't know, and you're sharing your knowledge and sharing your experience, you're building your legitimacy. So that's actually also one thing that I really liked about the summit, is that we learned really up-to-date information on the trends. I remember we had a whole session on blockchain, for example, and it's really important to stay up-to-date with the novelties and the updates in your market or whatever sector you're operating in, so that you're legitimate, because you really position yourself as someone who's expert in whatever they're doing. And so that's for whoever would question your legitimacy, because it's not about the age, especially when it comes to sectors that are very innovative. It's not like green hydrogen has been around for too many years, or these things are quite new. So we're all learning at the same pace. So that's also a good thing for us as young people when we choose to work on topics that are very very new. And then the other thing, in terms of leading a team when you're young, it did happen to me that I was leading a team where most people were older than me. So it's very important to be humble and like recognize that they probably know something that you don't, and make them feel valued, and really cover the human part of it. So recognize them if they're older. Of course, they probably have more experience in some other fields, but it's a let's say a smart mix between being humble but also being confident in yourself and your knowledge and your expertise. So being confident enough to be legit, but also being humble enough so that not everyone hates you and you can still learn a lot from other people. Thank you very much for the comment. Yes, I saw you are also welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat. I recommend, I use a lot Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me on these platforms, feel free to do so. I can share my LinkedIn profile or something later on the chat. And I think that I was talking about human-centered leadership. This is something that's very important to me, not just because I'm maybe younger than most leaders in basically in every institution I was in. I'm always like the youngest director or the youngest one in the team, but because I really do believe that the teams and the team spirit is what makes the dream work. But it's really what makes the changes move forward. And what I really liked about the BYM experience is that it was there was a lot of, we felt like a team. We felt like a team of young people connected towards working for a similar vision of our continent. And I think that the leaders of 2021 and the years to come forward really need to focus on the individuals and on their motivation and on them as humans, because I mean, I guess we all know we are more and more trying to look for meaningful jobs, for meaningful lives, for work-life balance. And the old style management types and stereotypes of I'm not gonna say the stereotypes, but the saying I'm not an old white man, therefore I cannot be the leader. It's overrated already. So it's outdated, sorry, already, because now we need more than ever to be able to align people towards a common vision so that we can move forward. And for me, that's what leadership means. It's leading the way by inspiring and by defining the vision and being able to work towards that as a team. So thank you very much for sharing my LinkedIn. I see that on the chat. For me, BYM is also I mean, few years later, it was great to also get visibility through that. So now I'm happy that I'm able to meet a lot of new people. So it's an ongoing experience. The summit itself is, of course, is the highlight, but it doesn't end once at the last day of the summit. It's really a community that you're part of, and that you can always reach out to, and you can always get a platform to voice your ideas and to share ideas or to meet new people. So it's difficult to summarize it as just one event, because it's really more something that stays with you. I wouldn't say I don't think about BYM every day, but I know that when it comes to making decisions for my career, when it comes to, getting motivation, as I said earlier, and also when it comes to knowing what's next for me, I look up to all the delegates that were with me that year, and I see that Corey is here and Elizabeth and some of the people that were with me during the summit back in 2017. It's very inspiring to be connected to people that lift you up and give you ideas on what you could do. For example, I had never considered doing a PhD, but when I was during the summit and some people that I met, I saw that they recently completed their PhDs and they have had those experiences, and I'm like, well, that's a good idea. So it's when I say it's inspiring, you are inspired and you inspire other people. So it's a really virtuous circle. And one thing maybe I will say specifically as a Moroccan, because we often tend to think about, because Africa is huge, right? And we usually think about sub-Saharan Africa or the countries that we're closer to geographically. And for us in Morocco, we I wouldn't say we feel left out, but we really need to reconnect with our African roots and support the continent the best as we can, given also our proximity with Europe and other areas of the world. So I think that as a Moroccan, being able to attend this summit and being able to meet that many people, I really felt on an individual level, not as a professional, but as an individual, that okay, we have more things in common than maybe with other areas in the world, and we have similar concerns, and we have that same will to actually contribute to our continent. So one issue, for example, that we have in Morocco is that a lot of the most qualified people go abroad to work, it is a great experience. And if that's something you can bring back to your home country, it's great. But sometimes they just never come back. So then we're left with not much expertise in the ground. So having communities like BYM that actually connect the people that are involved in the continent, it gives you motivation. You're like, oh, you're not like doing something that doesn't make sense, but you're actually in a global trend of young Africans willing to move back or to get involved in their home countries. Maybe you can tell us how you tackled the COVID-19 pandemic within the incubator, considering that incubation requires intellectual and physical spaces. That's a very good question, actually. So in fact, when you're an organization that supports entrepreneurs and that you're yourself hit by the pandemic, you can't also give up on your startups, because that's the time where they needed support more than anything. So of course we shifted our activities online when the pandemic was at its highest, when it was really bad, when it was confinement basically. And then progressively we tried to do events with limited number of people. But most of all, I would say that the greater impact the pandemic had on our work as an incubator is that we were more involved in the policy end of things, as in we reached out to, it was easier to be heard by public bodies because they needed to know how they can support the startups. And because they know it was a critical situation, and we really wanted to avoid a social crisis on top of the health crisis and the economic crisis. So that was an opportunity for us to voice how they can support the entrepreneurs. And we were actually able to get some financial lines that were specifically dedicated to entrepreneurs to help them with the COVID recovery. Now the incubator is open again, so now everything is back. I wouldn't say back to normal, but we are able to hold physical events, and maybe to finish on a positive note, because I think this the last couple of minutes. I would say that the pandemic, in those times of changes, that's when you create new opportunities. So it actually speeded up the process of digitalization, and a lot of startups are on this topic, and it really showed the need for local solutions and innovative solutions. So it did have some positive collateral impact. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think I'm right on time, and I'd be happy to be connected to you on LinkedIn or Twitter, as I said.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. That was great. Thank you for all of your insights, and it was great to hear about how Sarah, after the BYM summit, traversed her career and took some bold leaps. I saw some comments coming in about the bold leaps that Sarah took. So we hope to see you. Either we see you in Morocco, or you come to South Africa again, and we'll get to interact. And that's one of the major sort of benefits of being a BYMer, is that you start to create this sort of global and continental network, common ideas, common passions, working together to make Africa more robust and sort of realize the Renaissance.